always has to be a shot at somebody.
No.
They're never clean.
They have to run. That's the only shot they have.
They do it for 82 games. We're about to find out.
He already has shown what he's capable of.
Did surprise me. I thought we were going to hang in there.
This makes me think that we do need to be humble.
I actually think you're the only one who deserved that.
Hey, Boy Manning here. Welcome to a Monday edition of the Garden Report ahead of another Celtics 76ers game. So we welcome in Keith Pompey, as we often do here at CLNS and the Garden Report, to talk some Celtics and some Sixers. Welcome in, Keith. Good to see you. How's everything?
Everything's been well, man. Thanks for having me on the show, on the pod.
So we've seen these teams play a couple times. You've been following the Sixers all year. Gotten to see the Celtics a couple times here now. What's your impression of this Boston team so far? They've started about 500, been competitive defensively. Looks like they're figuring some things out offensively, and obviously following massive offseason changes and the Jason Tatum injury. They're trying to rediscover who they are for this year. So what are you seeing out of them so far?
You know, the biggest thing is, like you talked about, they're making a lot of changes. And I see, like, they play hard, but I also see a team that is really trying to find this groove, find this niche, understand what they have. I mean, you look at them the first time they played the Sixers in the season opener, and then when they played them several games after that, it was like a little bit of a different twist. So when everybody talks about the 76ers, okay, what are they going to do this year? What are they going to do this year? I think a major question mark also is, what are the Celtics going to do? And how much is Joe going to get them better? I just see a team that, they're a little inconsistent right now, just because they're still trying to figure out what they totally have.
Yeah, and that's been the deal. I mean, in the first game, they're starting Hauser. They're a little smaller. They're struggling on the boards to begin the year. That opening night game was a tie in the offensive rebounding department there. But a rough crunch time finish, and they obviously had 2 shots to win it at the buzzer in that game that they squandered. Peyton Pritchard getting both of those looks there. And then the second Philly game was part of a stretch by this team now where the rebounding is definitely stabilized. They've figured that out a little bit here. The defense has been intense and active, and they led by what in that game? 24. I mean, they were running Philly off the court up until the late stages of the game, where Maxey and the others worked them back into it and gave themselves a chance to win it at the buzzer too, almost in the exact same fashion there for Embiid. So they've played each other pretty even to this point, and it's been competitive, and that's impressive to me from the Celtics, because this Philly team, I don't know how you feel about it, but to me, they've been one of the better teams across the league, especially considering the injuries and the guys they've had missing through a lot of these games.
Yeah, I think they're an extremely exciting team. I mean, you look at Tyrese Maxey, he's averaging over 33 points a game. And then you see what VJ Edgecombe can do, on certain nights. And I feel like, they're exciting because they like getting out and run, and they don't stop. They just always attack. They always attack. I think that from a basketball fan standpoint, watching these two teams play against each other is a treat, just because of the history, and then also the way that both of these teams don't give up, the way that they fight.
Yeah, and what are we looking at? It's so early in the season, but, we got 10 games now. We got a little bit of impression of both these groups here. Philly's currently in a tie for 5th in the East. It's a big group of teams now that have 6 wins between 3 and 7. Celtics, even after the win over Orlando last night, splitting that little mini series, only up to 10th in a tie with Toronto, Atlanta among the 5-win teams. So it's all so tight right now. But where do you position both of these teams right now if you were going to rank your East teams? Like, where's Philly fit in? Where does Boston fit in?
It's kind of weird to say this right now, just because I haven't seen all the teams play. You look at Boston, and I think in the beginning of the season, when Jason Tatum, with Jason Tatum's situation from the playoffs last year, and you look at how they got rid of players, I mean, you felt like, Boston was supposed to be a team that said, okay, we're not going to do anything this year, and we're going to struggle. But they're out there playing hard. So, it's one of those things where you look at them and you say, okay, where are they positioned? Are they like a play-in tournament team, right? But at the same time, the way that they're playing hard, you look at them and say, you know what? I could see them being, trying to be like a 6 or a 7 team, maybe. But then the same thing you say about the 76ers, right? That's where you think they factor in. But the biggest question mark about the 76ers is, you know, what's going to happen when they bring everybody back? How are roles going to change? How is Paul George going to make the 76ers different, right? And is that going to be a positive or a negative, right? So I just think that right now when we talk about it, it's kind of hard to say because unfortunately, in the past it was always 15 games, but now it's like, well, who's going to get healthy after those 15 games? And I think the Sixers are one of those teams trending that way.
My view on the Celtics hasn't changed much into this season because I was relatively high on them, probably compared to the consensus, like you, 6, 7, maybe fitting in there. If things break right with some injuries, could even rise a little higher than that because of the top end talent that's still there. And it's been interesting. White has struggled, Pritchard has struggled shooting the ball. The whole team has struggled shooting the ball. They're 27th in 3-point percentage, but they've still worked out a 500 record here. They've still been competitive across pretty much all their games. So my view of them hasn't changed much. The first 3 games are scary, starting 0-3 and having all the rebounding issues they did. But since then, they've figured out a way to fight in all these games. So my view on them hasn't changed much. Philly, I mean, I'm sure you felt this way to some degree, and everybody did. You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know who was going to be available. You didn't know where guys were going to fit in. You didn't know what they were going to be a year after they fell into the lottery. So I just put them at 10. They could be in the playoffs. They could be in the play-in mix. They could be out of the playoffs. So let me just put them somewhere because I don't know what to do with them, and I put them at 10. The start of the year has made me feel a lot better about them, and we'll see what happens with Joel's health. I think you bring up a good point with George, but in my mind now, there is a world, and there always was, right, if health broke the right way for this team. But in a wide open East, they could win the East. Like, I could see them finishing as a top 3 seed here. I could see them reaching the finals at this point, just based off the snapshot we've seen so far of Embiid just being available enough and fitting into something of a role. Maxey, I don't know if this is sustainable for him, but he's been one of the best players in the league, period, to begin this year. And in a lot of role, I mean, I didn't see the game the other night, Keith, but Trendon Watford putting up a 20-point triple-double. I mean, they are just getting a lot of contributions out of a lot of guys right now. It's a well-coached team. It's a fast team. It's a fun team. It has one of the best rookies in the league. So my view of the Celtics didn't change much. My view on the Sixers, who I was high on going into last year and was completely wrong about, has become an optimistic one again. And I'm scared, right? Because this thing could just fall off a cliff for them at any given moment, as we know.
Yeah, and that's the main thing. You can fall off the cliff as any moment. But the one thing is that we learn about the 76ers is that, Tyrese Maxey can lead a team, right? He can be a face of a franchise right now. I mean, because, Joel Embiid is always like the cornerstone. He's the guy that, former MVP, 7-time All-Star. But right now, when we have to say the head of the snake at this particular time, has been Tyrese Maxey. And in the past, it was one of those things where, if he would get a lot of points, it was basically most of them came in the first half, and then he got some in the third, and then he would be shut down a little bit in the fourth because teams were like basically switching up the defense and doing a lot of different things. But now we look at it, he's been, one of the NBA's best fourth quarter scorers. And as he goes, the team goes. So, that's the one thing that I think for the 76ers fans and everything is just the excitement level around him and around the team. And you look at the way the roster is constructed, there's a lot of guys on this team that they picked up maybe fit Maxey's style play more so than Embiid's.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk about Maxey here a little bit as we continue the conversation here. But if you were going to pick, I don't know, your top 6 teams in the East, the teams above the play-in line that are going to be leading the conference now, based off what we've seen here. Who are the 6 you're going with?
Okay, the 6 that I'm going with, I guess I'm gonna have to go with Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland. Let's see, maybe Atlanta, the Sixers, and I mean, I can go either Boston or Toronto.
Yeah, and Toronto's been competitive too.
Yeah.
Milwaukee, they're in that mix. They've been pretty good
Yeah.
so far. The Heat are there, so like it's packed. I would probably go coming into the year. It's New York, Cleveland for me. A lot of people
I didn't even say
obviously
New
picking
York.
those 2
My bad.
teams.
Yeah,
Yeah, so New York's gonna be in there for sure. So I guess you can bump out Toronto and Boston in that
Yeah.
case since they were in the bottom. I don't know if Detroit's gonna stick around there. They're off to the hot start. I do have questions about them, and their defense has been great. Offense has been more mediocre, so I don't know how sustainable their run's gonna be there. Though I did have them 5 coming into the year. Chicago, it's hard to trust them for me right now, especially after Giddey got banged up the other night, but we'll see what ends up happening there. I was high on the Heat coming in before I saw some of the injury stuff that they were going through in training camp, so not stunning to me that they're up in that mix. Milwaukee, I'm willing to believe in right there. So, yeah, I'll go New York, Cleveland, Miami. I'll throw Philadelphia in there. I will keep the Bucks there, and I will keep the Celtics there, barring health. So I will keep the Celtics at 6 for now, even after the 5 and 6 start, even after some of the concerns we've seen here. So I'll bump Chicago. I will bump Detroit. But Detroit's been impressive so far. So that's how I'm stacking up for now. I'm worried about Orlando, especially after the last 2 games we saw of them. The coach seems to be in some trouble down there. I mean, they were a team I could see going to the finals coming into this season. So I'm very concerned about what I saw from them over the last couple of games here. Well, could you keep the conversation going? I want to talk about Maxey because he's just been out of this world here. But first, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor here, and that is Prize Picks. And it is a great time of year because it's basketball season to head over and build your team every day if you'd like to. Obviously, football, you can only do it every week over on Prize Picks, but basketball games are going on every night. They're going on as we talk here live, and you and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this basketball season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. They now offer stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. For example, Steph Curry points, 3-pointers, and assists. You can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. You can follow other players directly in the app and copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, a celebrity, partner, or just someone whose picks you like. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks, which also has injury reboot. So if one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks won't count it as a loss. And the flex play, where you can get paid even if one of your pick misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, you can go with the power play no matter your play. Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. So head over there, use code CLNS after you download the app today, and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So I was thinking of this earlier in the day, Keith, as Maxey emerges as one of the leading scorers in the league alongside Shea and the others up there. You've talked about him becoming like the head of the snake here for this team, and I think that's pretty obvious with Embiid's sparse availability now. But I was thinking, as we see he and Jaylen go at it again here, it would have been incomprehensible to ask this question going into the year or a year ago, certainly. But is this a guy you're taking ahead of some of the stars of the league like Jaylen and other like perennial All-NBA contenders here. Like, how high has he vaulted himself in the league hierarchy with this start here?
It's crazy because after a couple games, you would probably say no. Like, nah, I don't know if I'm gonna take him over that. But the more that you watch him and you say that, you know what, he's been doing this for 10 games. I know it's a small sample size, but at this particular game, at this particular time, he's been extremely vital to his team. and he's like consistently getting over 30 points. So with that being said, yeah, I would give it to him right now. I mean, at this particular time. Now, again, there's time for him to lose that and for them to come and surpass him. But at the same time, like right now, for what he's doing, I mean, he's proven that it's kind of sort of not a fluke a little bit, right? But it's still early days, but I have to give it to him. I mean, just because, like 30 points to 40 points, everything that he's doing, he's like right now we're looking at it, him having 10 games for 25 points and 8 assists. I mean, there's only been one other player in the whole NBA who matched that, and that was Allen Iverson, right? There was a time where he looked at and you look at the stats that he had early on, it was him, Allen Iverson, Luca, Jerry West. It's just that the numbers that he's putting up are kind of like these are what Hall of Famers are doing. So again, small sample size, but you have to give him credit because this is something that Brunson wasn't able to do, right? Jaylen Brunson or other players. So you have to give him credit for it.
Yeah, and only 2 games this year where he's fallen below 40% from the field. Obviously 44% from 3 here. So that's the biggest question in his game was the 3-point consistency, and he's solved that coming into this year. He's been lethal out there. The opening night game, 7 and 9 from 3, and then the last game against Boston, he goes 4 for 9 in that one. Able to get a shot off, able to play massive minutes. I mean, he came back in the second half of that last game in Philly at a point where I was like, well, he's going to play the entire fourth quarter here. And he does get up to 44 minutes by the end of that game. So he only sits 4+ in that one, which is crazy considering the workload he's amounting here and the availability through all their games to this point. So, I mean, some Celtics fans might not like it, but you look at the scoring, it's there. You look at the rebounding. I mean, he's rebounding more per game than Jaylen is. The assists, it's like twice as many here, less turnovers. Jaylen's got him on the 2-point efficiency, I guess, because he's up around like 52 from the field. But obviously, you're getting more points for your 3-point attempts as he is here. It's early, but I mean, it's conceivable right now that you would say you would prefer to have Maxey on your team over Jaylen Brown. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I also look at the difference is that, I look at one of them who's a combo guard, and I look at another one who's a wing, right?
Yeah.
So I like,
You're getting more defense out of Jaylen, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's they're I mean, they're just both two different types of players. I mean, I do think that, Jaylen, like Maxey does certain things great, but like you said, you get more defense. You get another guy who basically can do other different things, more athletic than Maxey is. It was extremely athletic. But to me, the one similarity for both of them this season is this is an opportunity for both of them to show that they can lead, like over an extended period of time, right? Because when you look at Maxey, at best, he was always a number 2 option. That's what you thought in your head. And now he's showing what he can do as the head of the snake. And the same thing for Jaylen. It's kind of like as good as he was, and, he would have some stretches. You always look at that team as Tatum's team, right? So now it's like, what can he do? And now he's showing you what he can do to be the head of the snake, so to speak. So that to me is, I get it, but I look at those two guys as, different players, but the similarity is that they're both trying to show you that they can be a lead dog this season.
Yeah, and what have you made of Jaylen's season? I don't know how you thought he would fare without Jason. Obviously, there's a chance for him to show that he can lead a team this year. And as far as the scoring goes, he's done it. The on-off stuff's kind of weird with him. Like the Celtics have actually fared better statistically with him off the court than on, which is maybe just a little noise from some blowouts and stuff to this point. He's never been a great analytics guy. When you look at the advanced numbers with him, it's never screamed that he's a great player, but he stuffs the box score. I think he's 4th in total scoring this season, given that he's played every game and the Celtics have played, I think, an extra game than anyone else to this point. So he's been consistent. He's played hurt. He's led them to multiple wins at this point. And I think he's pretty much given this team what they've wanted out of him. Maybe a few more turnovers than you would like to see, but that's just part of his game and his aggressiveness at this point that you have to live with to get all the other stuff, I think, even though you would like to see him maybe cut out 1 or 2 per game.
Yeah, I think he's in probably one of the toughest situations right now. And the reason why I'm saying that is, like, we look at a guy like Derek White who's struggling, right? You look at some other teammates who have been struggling a little bit, right? So when you go into the game plan, and the reason why I'm saying tough is because in the past it was like, okay, well, we got to worry about him. We got to worry about Tatum. We have to worry about, okay, we don't want Drew Holiday to let everybody to make people remember that he can shoot the ball a little bit or score a little bit, right? So I think that now you look at him and you say to yourself, like, okay, well, the entire focus is going to go on him. And then at the same time, if you're the Celtics, you still want him to lead. So with that, it's easier to game plan for him now than it was in the past. So that's why, in my opinion, the analytics and all that other stuff might be a little bit better without him, just because the shots that he's taking are tougher than just about a lot of other people and doing things like that, right? So that's how I look at it. I mean, honestly, that's how I look at it. But, let's keep it 100 now. This team isn't going far without him. Like they're going to need him to be able to continue to play at a high level for them to continuously have the level of success that Joe would love for them to have this season. So, yeah, we can get into the analytics. We can get into all these other things that the fans see. But what they don't realize is that he's being guarded perhaps tougher than he's ever been, because there's not another guy that they're like 100% scared of, on this roster right now.
Yeah, he's almost been a diversion sometimes to get other guys free because of how much pressure he's attracting. And I was looking at the numbers yesterday, like his ball time hasn't been as high as White, Pritchard. Like those guys are doing most of the facilitating for this team, but they have more room to operate, I think, because when Brown does get on the ball or drives, he can kick out and open up the perimeter, outside of those collapses there. So I think that's part of what you see on the tape from him. When you look at it outside of the numbers here, the assists, they've been relatively low, but he's not the guy passing to the shot a lot of the time. It's usually one of the other guys who catch it and then ends up making the play from there. So he is first on the team in secondary assists, I saw, which I think speaks to the role he's playing on this team here. So a lot of it, I think, is just his presence right now, able to free up a lot of other guys, which, is what Tatum did to some degree. It's the assist to turnover ratio here that does have to get a little bit better for him for this team to be more consistent. I had a conversation with, Tony Jones about this when we had him on before the last game, and I wanted your perspective on it too, because this team's in an interesting spot here, almost similar to where Philly was a year ago, where, guys are hurt, guys are out of the lineup, and you're trying to compete going into this year, right? Like the Sixers wanted to have a good season last year, it just didn't go that way, and missed the playoffs, end up in the lottery. Obviously, their pick was in flux there, right, with what they owed to Oklahoma City from the Horford deal. And they end up winning the lottery, getting up to number 3 there, and picking a guy who's been maybe better than anyone in this draft class so far in BJ Edgecombe here. So I think a lot of people look at that. A lot of Celtics fans, in my mentions in particular, are saying they want to see this team in the lottery this year. They want to see a top draft pick join Tatum and Brown next year. And that's the best long-term play for this team this year. I'm not going to get into tanking and all of that because I think that's a complicated discussion. But would this team, this Celtics team, you think, be better off being competitive this year, seeing some strides from guys who are on the team right now, making the playoffs, maybe going around, or ending up in the lottery and picking top 10, let's say?
You know what? I think right now, the things that the Celtics are doing, they're trying to go out there and see what they have. Like if you look at their rotation and the roster, some of these guys that are playing in there, like Luke Garza, like he's a guy that wasn't going to play for a lot of other teams. I think that what they're doing now is you're evaluating what you have, and then you can make a decision later. Because let's face it, you know when we talk about like benefit from tanking, yeah, they'll benefit definitely from getting a top draft pick, a guy that they could pair in there, and then he'll be on like a little rookie contract, whatever. Yes, that will benefit them. But at the same time, when we look at these teams who do these wholesale tanks from the beginning of the season, especially last year, none of them got the first pick. It was the teams who basically were kind of like the 76ers who were like, okay, well, we're going to go in here and see what we have, and we're going to evaluate our talent. Then we're going to tweak certain things. Oh, well, we're not going to make the playoffs, so now let's go out and tank, right? I think that's what it will benefit the Celtics, because right now you got to look and see if Peyton Pritchard can be a starter in this league, right? I mean, that's one of those things. Can he start? Okay, what about Derek? Like, can he step up and assume a different role? So when I look at at Boston, yes, they got time to like tear it down and say we're going to go out and get like a hot shot rookie, which this draft is supposed to be better than last year's. But I just feel like the time to do all that is not now. And let's just say if somebody does stand out, if Peyton takes a major step forward, then maybe they may say, well, you know what? We might be better off with maybe making the playoffs and worrying about when Jason comes back. But if not, I feel like, we will see them do similar to what the 76ers did, because, this is a season that could be defining for them in regards to talent and evaluation.
Yeah, and the Sixers had the decision made for them in many ways with the guys who got hurt. And if that, you mentioned how important Jaylen is. Let's say Jaylen, knock on wood here, suffers an injury at some point and misses some weeks, that could have a devastating impact on this team's ability to contend for the playoffs. So some of it's out of their hands. Some of it's going to be decided by how the season goes here. And right now, with all the guys they have in place, my position's been that they can't, even if they tried to get down to the Brooklyn and Washington, Charlotte level, like they won't even be able to get there unless they take drastic measures. And I just think those are demoralizing if you head up going in those directions. So let's say you have to do that for the last month or two to get where you want to go, lottery positioning wise. I think everyone understands it at this point. But right now, at the beginning of the year, you have a lot of guys who want to compete, and you owe it to compete, I think. And as you mentioned, you got to answer some questions about this roster. And let's say you're going along at trade deadline time and these guys just aren't cutting it, and White's struggling with the bigger role, and Pritchard doesn't look like a starter, whatever could happen, worst case scenario, then you react. And I think that's been this front office's position is we'll just see how it goes, see what opportunities come up. This is still a very expensive team too. Like they could end up making some moves here. I don't know if you think like Simmons is a long-term fit here, but he almost seems inevitable to move after the offseason where they were trying to see what they could potentially do there. And he's been an awkward fit so far here too. And that's, I think, one of the guys that you look at and say, all right, are they going to keep him past the deadline and have him as a piece to compete? Or is he going to be gone because of salary and just trying to position yourself for a lottery position down the stretch there? Those are the kind of moves that I think are going to decide it.
Exactly. And you want to see, you want to evaluate all that and make it, because let's face it, he may have been an awkward fit for now, but it could change. But if it continues to be that way, you can look at it like, you know what? if he continues to play well, there's going to be a contender who's going to be willing to give up some assets to get him, right? So those are the things that the Celtics are. And then let's face it, the East is extremely wide open right now.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So we're talking all this stuff. Next thing you know, they can make a run. Like you just never know. You
If other
just never
teams get
know.
hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot that they could do. Is a lot going on for them right now.
Yeah, and obviously the Tatum return potentially later in the season looms as well. I mean, we've talked about that plenty and don't really need to get into that, but that's another factor here that could shift some things potentially for where this team's going here. Has Edgecombe made, we know he's got off to that lethal start and historic first 3 games there and just broke through to the starting lineup. Looks like he's cooled off a little bit here, which you would understand a guy going through. But has he been the kind of guy who just transformed their fortunes overnight? Like, has that been part of their story this year, is that he's come in and has just changed the team right away as a lottery pick, or has it been more complicated than that?
No, I think it has been that way. I think he's changed it.
Yeah.
I mean, we look at that Boston game and some other games. I think the big question that they have right now is like, how does he fit long term? I mean, and not to say that he doesn't fit, but whereas like when you have Joel Embiid out there, it's typically, especially while you're trying to figure out what Joel can do for this team right now, you want to go through Joel. But it's kind of like right now you look at it and you see the Maxey Edgecombe guard tandem is like explosive, but he's going to have a lesser role when you're trying to get Joel Embiid involved. So I
Mhm.
think that's the major problem, not problem, but how do the Sixers go about keeping him active? How do they keep him aggressive? You know, and things like that. How does he remain incorporated? So, but I do look at him as if that you look at what Maxey is doing, you see what Edgecombe is doing. It's an exciting team, right? But the main thing is, how does you keep that while he's playing along Joel, and then especially once Paul George comes back?
So, going into the season, you could have debated, would you rather be the Celtics? Probably hard to argue for them with Tatum down and, questions of their roster, all the departures, all that. But you could have argued Celtics over Sixers potentially here, especially with Embiid's uncertainty and George's too. But I think that's become pretty clear to begin this year that the Sixers are probably in a better position to win this season if Embiid's available and George is obviously coming back here and all the guys who have stepped up. I think that's made that question pretty clear here. But who would you rather be for the next 5 years, let's say here? Obviously, we're going to see what's happening with Embiid's health, but there's a new core here forming, a new style, obviously, with those guys out there. George's contract's a tough one, depending on how he steps into a new phase of his career here. I'll be interested to see how that works out because he's going to have to do that for a couple more years here on the deal he's playing on. And then, they obviously have some draft picks going out the door from that Harden trade. The Celtics have a couple going out the door to San Antonio potentially from the White trade, to Portland for the Holiday deal, but a lot of their picks are intact. You got Tatum coming back. You think he's going to return the form. You got Brown here for long term. And then you try to build something around those guys. So it's close, honestly, when you think about it here. They both have some really good pieces. They both have some big questions into the future here. But who do you think's in a better position over the next 3 to 5 years, let's say, between these two franchises?
I mean, it basically depends on what you do with Joel Embiid and Paul George. If you can't get rid of those two guys,
I don't
you
think
know,
you can get rid of those guys.
yeah, I think you have to go with Boston. I mean, I think you do. I mean, and when we look at, when we look at Tatum and Brown, we're talking about two guys who became all NBA caliber players who, came into the league after Embiid, right? They're younger. You look at Peyton Pritchard, you look at some other people, but now if you take Embiid and Paul George out of the equation, then you may say like, okay, well, we're talking about $100 million coming off the books. And then you have Tyrese Maxey, you have a young VJ Edgecombe, You have Quentin Grimes, right? You also have Jared McCain, and then you say, I really like that combo. But if the way things are set up right now, if Jason Tatum comes back and he's healthy, which he in today's NBA, you can come back and be healthy. I think that you have to go with the Celtics over the next couple of years because Embiid is just going to get older, and you saw how he looked as lateral movement defense, and then Paul George is already 35. So it's just one of those things where I think that you would have to go Boston.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I guess 3 to 8 maybe in the rotation. It's Philly. If you're gonna call Embiid and George the 1 and 2, and I think the only way it does work out for Philly is if Embiid, George move into new, more complementary roles alongside the young guys who are emerging as the 1s and 2s. But that dynamic changing almost every night, I think is gonna be challenging for them. And that was the biggest challenge a year ago. I felt like for that team is who's in, who's out on any given night there. And that's something that the Celtics probably don't have to deal with once everybody gets totally healthy again. But obviously the Achilles is substantial, and you still have to see how Tatum's going to come back from that, because you got Tatum, you got Brown, you got White, got Pritchard, let's say. So 1 to 4, you're looking pretty solid. But after that, even at the center position, it's a massive question mark for this team right now. Not just this year, but next year too. How do you patch those holes in the rotation? Like, they're still expensive, still get some questions at those spots. Your hope is that Tatum and Brown can just make it all work. And, I had Chris Mannix on the other day, and he was like, this team's probably a contender in the East off Tatum and Brown alone. I don't know if I go quite that far, but I understand the thinking because they've been in the playoffs every single year with those guys. And I guess if you're in the playoffs in this conference, you're in the mix to win this conference.
I agree. I agree with Chris because, think about it. If Tatum comes back to the way we think he's going to come back, they got two of the best players, two of the best 15 players in the NBA, and they already won a championship. And then, it's one of those things where, you look at Joe, like the coach I think he's a little underrated. I
He's
know
an
I look
asset.
at it, you know what I mean? And I'm looking and I'm seeing what he does. Just the mentality, the things that they say, how practices go and all this and all that. I don't know. I think that when you're close to it and the people in Boston they see it all the time. They look at him like, oh, we don't know. But no, man, like moving forward, you got two of the best 15 players in the league. Seriously, two of the best 15 players in the league. It's hard for them to not be competitive moving forward. You look at what they're doing comparable to how Indiana fell off the rails, right? Other teams. Look at Orlando. Orlando is, a couple of years, like my man, the head coach was the coach of the year. Everybody was talking about how this was an up and coming team and they expected a lot from them, and they're struggling, right?
Yeah.
So I think that coaching and then having two of the best players who've won a championship already together know what it takes. It will take them a long way.
For sure, and they'll just have to wait to get there. This is something of a gap/bridge year, but they've made it competitive. They've made it fun so far, and both these games between these two teams have been fun to this point. Sixers won by 1 on opening night. Celtics won by 1 a week or two later, and now they play for the third time in about a month here. Celtics coming in healthy. Hauser's probably going to play. Sixers still missing Barlow, who was a big part of that win in the first game there, but they figured out a way to work around Watford and some other guys at that spot. McCain's back too, who, I don't know, we're going to start to see a little more of him tomorrow?
No, maybe not. Not to the way that people want. Like right now, he
He's
played
just working his way back in.
Yeah, he's working his way back in, yeah.
So he's available, but he hasn't played a lot so far, just 24 minutes in 3 games. So don't think we'll see a ton of him yet, but he's another piece for this team that makes them intriguing. I've enjoyed watching that group so far. Are they wearing the throwbacks tomorrow, or you think it's going to be back to the normal?
It's gonna be back to the normal. It's gonna be back to the normal. Yeah, for tomorrow.
You like those or the ones they've been wearing better?
No, they're all right, man. Like they're not even really like the real throwbacks. I mean, they are, but they're not. Like, I mean, they got the nice emblem, like the same thing. They're black, but when you look at it, they were like cut off sleeves. Like they were like cut. This one is like a regular jersey. So, you know, it's a nice imitation of it. But I mean, here's the deal: they're 0-2 with those uniforms. So you know how that goes. After a while, people are gonna be like, "Hey, why are we wearing these? Don't wear them anymore."
I haven't seen the gold. The gold ones look good for the Celtics that they've been teasing. They haven't worn them yet. I think they're white and gold letters, which they've had some alternatives I haven't loved in recent years, but the classics are great for them. I like the blue ones for Philly. So I'm assuming that's what we're going to be seeing tomorrow from those, maybe the whites for Philly and the greens for the Celtics there. So
Yeah.
8 o'clock's the tip-off. I will be down there making my way down in the morning, barring some air traffic control debacle that's been going on around the country here. So see how that works out. I'll get down there somehow, some way. And Keith will have coverage there too for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Go read him over there. Go check him out on Twitter at Pompey on the Sixers. Always love having him here for some Philly talk as well as Celtics talk here on the Garden Report. Keith, thanks again.
Thanks for having me, my man. Thanks for having me.
All right, and check out our sponsor here, Prize Picks. Use the code CLNS for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup over there. And show some love to Omaha Steaks. Use the code Patriots. Help out our Patriots coverage over there. Get $35 off your order at omahasteaks.com. Terms apply. That's it for the Garden Report. We'll be back post-game tomorrow night after the Celtics and the Sixers. Have a good night, everybody, and peace.